Ethan Ward had never seen anything like it. Even after years of working in some of the busiest shipyards across human space, nothing could have prepared him for the size of the vessel that loomed before him. It was the largest warship in the galaxy, an enormous structure built by the combined efforts of dozens of alien civilizations, yet still incomplete in its final form. The ship's hull reflected the light of the nearby star, shimmering like liquid metal, and it was so tall that its shadow covered the docking station in darkness. Ethan's human colleagues had warned him. "No one has ever worked on a ship like this before," one of them had said, shaking his head. "It's designed for species with 6 hands, or eyes that can see in the ultraviolet. Humans aren't built for this scale." But Ethan had a quiet determination that humans were known for an ability to improvise, adapt, and find solutions where others saw only limits. He adjusted his tool belt, took a deep breath, and stepped forward. The airlock hissed as he entered. Inside, the corridors were enormous, much larger than anything Ethan had walked through before. The walls seemed to stretch endlessly, lined with glowing panels that responded when he passed his hand near them. He expected buttons or levers, but the ship did not work like any machine he had ever seen. It felt almost alive. "Ethan Ward?" a voice called behind him. He turned to see a tall alien, with translucent skin that shimmered in the light, approaching him. Its eyes were wide and bright, filled with curiosity and something else, doubt. "You must be the human engineer assigned to the Sentinel," the alien said. "We are watching you." Ethan smiled politely. "I hope I don't disappoint." The alien tilted its head. "Humans are not known for handling ships of this complexity." "I'm not like other humans," Ethan replied quietly. He had learned early that confidence, even if small, could tip the balance when dealing with beings who doubted human ability. They moved through the corridors together, the alien explaining the basics of the ship, while Ethan's mind raced with questions. Every panel seemed to shift as he looked at it, and some of the systems responded to his presence, almost as if the ship recognized him. He stopped at a control console and waved his hand. The lights shifted, showing a holographic layout of the ship. Ethan leaned closer, studying the schematics. "This is unlike anything I've ever seen," he muttered. "You are not alone in thinking that," the alien said. "The Sentinel has never been fully operated by any species. It is not merely a warship, it is a vessel of learning. It observes, adapts, and chooses its operator based on qualities beyond strength or knowledge." Ethan frowned. "So it judges you?" The alien nodded slowly. "It judges not only skill, but intuition, creativity, and heart." Ethan swallowed. He had thought he was prepared for the technical challenges, the strange interfaces, and the alien technology. But now, he realized the real test was something deeper, something he could not study from manuals or blueprints. They reached the main access lift, which opened into a vast chamber filled with light. Ethan stepped in and gasped. The room seemed to pulse with energy. In the center floated a core, not mechanical but alive, glowing softly with shifting colors. The walls and floors seemed to breathe in rhythm with the light. It was beautiful and frightening all at once. "This is the heart of the Sentinel," the alien said. "It responds to those who enter. And it will reveal itself fully, only to the one it chooses." Ethan approached slowly, his steps echoing in the immense space. He reached out, instinctively placing his hand near the core. The colors shifted, flowing over him like a tide. A warmth spread through his body, not physical heat, but a sensation of connection, as if the ship were speaking. "What is this?" Ethan whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The alien gave no answer. It simply watched. Ethan felt a thrill of both fear and excitement. He had worked on ships before, but this was different. The Sentinel seemed to be alive. Not in a biological sense, but in a way that transcended technology. It had a mind of its own, yet it waited for him to prove himself worthy. For hours, Ethan explored the ship. He moved through corridors that twisted and turned, sometimes looping back on themselves. He entered rooms filled with floating tools and panels that adjusted automatically to his presence. Each room presented a puzzle, a test of ingenuity and creativity rather than force. Some panels displayed alien symbols, others reacted to sound, others to thought. Ethan realized he had to trust himself. The methods he had learned on human ships, logic, reasoning, and improvisation were useful. But here, the ship required something more. He began experimenting, trying combinations the manuals never suggested, speaking aloud, moving his hands in ways that felt natural. Slowly, the ship responded. Lights glowed brighter when he touched panels correctly. Doors opened when he anticipated their movement. The core's colors shifted, almost as if it approved. By the end of the day, Ethan felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. He had not mastered the Sentinel, but he had made contact with it in a way no other operator had. And yet, as he returned to the airlock to leave for the day, he sensed that something waited for him deeper inside the ship. Something beyond engineering. Beyond even the tests of skill and creativity. He paused, looking back at the glowing heart of the Sentinel. For a moment, it felt as if the ship was watching him, studying him in return. Ethan shivered, not with fear, but with the realization that this was only the beginning. Whatever awaited him inside, it was unlike anything he had faced before, and it would challenge not just his mind, but the very nature of what it meant to be human. As he stepped out into the docking station, the alien beside him said quietly, "Few have ever made the connection you have. The Sentinel may have chosen you, or it may be testing you still." Ethan nodded, staring at the massive warship. The shadow it cast seemed to stretch across the entire station, dark and imposing, but in its heart, a light pulsed alive, aware, and waiting for him to return. That night, as Ethan lay in his quarters aboard the station, he could not sleep. Images of the ship, its glowing core, and the corridors that seemed to shift before his eyes filled his mind. He knew that when he returned, the Sentinel would not simply be a machine to repair or maintain, it would be a partner, a challenge, and perhaps a mirror reflecting the best parts of humanity. He smiled, despite the fatigue. He had faced uncertainty before, but never like this. Never had the limits of human imagination been so crucial. Never had his ingenuity been tested in a way that mattered not just to him, but to the galaxy. And he knew one thing for certain. He was not ready. But then, Ethan had never been afraid of what he could learn. Ethan Ward woke to the quiet hum of the station. Sleep had been elusive. The image of the Sentinel, the galaxy's largest warship, lingered in his mind. Its glowing core, shifting and pulsing like a living heart, haunted him with a strange sense of invitation. He knew today would be different. Today, he would return inside the warship and face challenges that no human had ever faced before. The docking bay was alive with movement. Alien engineers floated across corridors, adjusting parts and checking readings, yet they paid him little attention. To them, humans were fragile and limited, creatures of curiosity but not capability. Ethan didn't mind. That had been a constant in his life. Humans underestimated him, and he thrived in proving them wrong. The airlock opened, and he stepped into the vast interior of the Sentinel once again. The corridors seemed even larger than yesterday, stretching and bending in ways that challenged his sense of space. Every panel and surface responded to his presence, glowing softly as he passed. The ship was alive. He could feel it. But today it seemed more alert, more curious, as if it had remembered him. He moved carefully, exploring a section of the ship he had not reached before. This part was quiet, almost reverent, with soft golden light spilling from the walls. Holographic panels hovered in the air, showing schematics, star charts, and symbols that he could not immediately understand. He reached out, and the panels shifted, arranging themselves into a pattern that made sense to him. The ship was learning him, just as he was learning it. Ethan Ward. A voice echoed through the chamber. This time, it was not the alien guide, but a voice from within the ship itself. It was soft, calm, almost musical. "You have returned." Ethan froze. I'm here," he said cautiously. "I want to understand you." There was a pause. Then the colors of the core in the center of the room shifted, flowing like liquid light. It expanded and contracted in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Ethan realized that the ship communicated not in words, but in motion, color, and energy. He stepped closer, studying the core carefully. "You are different from the others," the voice said. "They see with many eyes. They manipulate with strength. You see with thought and heart." Ethan's mind raced. The ship was intelligent, beyond any artificial intelligence he had encountered. It was not just a machine, it was alive, in a sense that transcended biology. It did not merely respond to commands, it understood, it learned, it judged, but not harshly. It evaluated the essence of its operator. He spent hours exploring the ship. Each room presented new puzzles. Some panels required him to think in patterns, predicting sequences before they happened. Others demanded creative solutions, ones that no alien engineer had ever attempted. Sometimes, the ship seemed to test him by creating situations that had no clear solution, forcing him to trust his instincts. Ethan found that human intuition, imagination, and empathy were not weaknesses here, they were strengths. Where aliens relied on calculations and strength, he relied on understanding, improvisation, and adaptability. Slowly, the Sentinel began to respond more positively. Lights glowed brighter when he approached. Pathways opened as if anticipating his steps. The ship's core pulsed in synchrony with his own heartbeat, and Ethan realized, with a thrill, that he was forming a connection with it, a bond unlike any other species had achieved. Midway through his exploration, a sudden alert lit up the holographic panels. A subsystem deep within the ship was malfunctioning, a part of the propulsion system that even the aliens had never fully activated. If left unchecked, the malfunction could spread, causing systems to shut down or collapse. Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. The aliens' protocols were complex, relying on multi-step sequences that took hours to implement. But Ethan did not have hours. He had minutes, maybe seconds. He studied the problem, scanning the panels, feeling the hum of the ship. Then, guided by instinct and experience, he acted. He reached out, touching the panels in patterns he could not explain. Lights flickered. Energy flowed through the conduits. The ship seemed to resist at first, then yielded. Slowly, the malfunction corrected itself. The propulsion system stabilized, and the core's colors shifted into a calm, harmonious rhythm. Ethan leaned back, breathing heavily. "I did it," he whispered. "You adapted," the ship said softly. "You did not follow the old paths. You made your own. That is why you are here." Ethan felt a swell of pride. But pride was tempered with curiosity. "Why me? Why a human?" he asked aloud. The ship pulsed, colors washing over him. Humans are small, fragile, limited. And yet, you surprise. You imagine. You create. You think in ways others cannot. That is why you are capable of awakening me. Ethan's mind reeled. All his life, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as weaker, slower, less capable. And yet here, in the heart of the largest warship in the galaxy, his species' greatest qualities, creativity, empathy, adaptability, were exactly what mattered. He spent the next several hours exploring more sections of the Sentinel. Each room, each corridor, offered lessons. Some rooms projected simulations of environments from distant worlds, forcing him to navigate challenges using logic and reasoning. Other areas displayed holographic representations of alien engineering, structures so complex they defied comprehension. Ethan found solutions using approaches no alien had considered, combining simplicity with creativity, intuition with observation. By the time the station's cycle ended and the docking bay lights dimmed, Ethan had made significant progress. The ship responded to him, not just in systems and controls, but in energy and rhythm. He felt a strange sense of partnership with the Sentinel, as if it were learning to trust him, just as he was learning to understand it. Before leaving, he paused in the chamber with the core. The ship's energy pulsed gently, as if acknowledging his presence. "I will return," he whispered. "I will understand you fully." "You will need more than skill," the ship replied. "You will need patience, heart, and courage. The path ahead is not simple." Ethan nodded, feeling a thrill of anticipation. He knew the next visit would test him further, pushing him beyond what he thought possible. But he also knew that humans had a way of rising to challenges that no one expected. And if the Sentinel was to be awakened fully, it was human ingenuity that would guide it. Back in his quarters, Ethan reflected on the day's work. He thought about the aliens who had doubted him, about the ship's strange and alive presence, and about the possibilities that lay ahead. Humans were small, fragile, limited, but in moments like this, those very limitations were transformed into strength. He had learned more in one day inside the Sentinel than most engineers learned in a lifetime. Sleep came slowly, but when it did, it was filled with visions of glowing corridors, pulsing energy, and the hum of a ship that was alive. Ethan dreamt of new solutions, new connections, and new ways of thinking. And when he awoke, he knew that the next day would bring even greater challenges, and even greater opportunities to prove that humanity was more than anyone had expected. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt that being human was not a disadvantage. It was a gift, and the Sentinel, vast and ancient, was beginning to understand that too. Ethan Ward felt the excitement before he even entered the Sentinel. The ship awaited him, not with suspicion, but with a subtle pulse of recognition. A gentle rhythm that matched his own heartbeat. Today was different. Today, he would take the Sentinel beyond the station and explore its true potential. The docking bay lights reflected off the hull of the warship, glinting like stars on metal. Aliens moved around, carrying out routine maintenance, but many paused to watch the human engineer approach. He had become a curiosity, a living proof that humans, small and underestimated, could achieve what the galaxy had long thought impossible. Ethan stepped into the airlock, adjusting his tools. The moment he crossed the threshold, the ship seemed to breathe, corridors shifting subtly, as though clearing a path for him. He smiled. The Sentinel was alive, and it knew he had returned. He moved to the control center, the vast room where the glowing core hovered in the center. The lights shimmered in response to his presence, casting reflections on walls that seemed to stretch infinitely. He approached the console, placing his hands near the panels. They lit up, responding to his thoughts and gestures. The Sentinel was teaching him, and he was learning at the same time. "You have returned," the ship's voice said, soft but resonant. "Are you ready to go further?" Ethan nodded, feeling a thrill of anticipation. "I am ready," the Sentinel responded. Panels shifted to reveal star charts, wormholes, and distant sectors of space that no human had ever seen firsthand. Ethan studied them carefully. The ship's size and design allowed it to traverse space in ways that seemed impossible. Its systems were not just mechanical, they were alive, adapting to his ideas, responding to his creativity. Ethan activated the propulsion system. The ship responded with a hum, soft at first, then growing stronger as energy flowed through the hull. Slowly, the Sentinel lifted from the docking bay, moving smoothly into space. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility. This was not just a test of skill, it was a demonstration of human ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. As the Sentinel glided past the station, Ethan's mind worked quickly. The ship presented him with its first challenge. A navigation sequence through a dense asteroid field. Alien pilots had avoided this path entirely, deeming it too dangerous, even for their most advanced warships. But Ethan did not panic. He studied the field, watching the asteroids shift in real time on the holographic panels. Then, trusting his instincts and the guidance of the ship, he maneuvered the Sentinel through the asteroids. The corridors of the ship adjusted automatically, sensors predicting movements and guiding him smoothly between obstacles. The Sentinel seemed to respond to his confidence and calm, as if it had been waiting for a mind capable of thinking like a human. By the time he emerged on the other side, Ethan realized he had done something no other species had achieved. Aliens watching from the station recorded the moment in awe. A human had guided the largest warship in the galaxy through a perilous field, using creativity and intuition instead of force or pre-programmed calculations. The next hours were a journey of discovery. The Sentinel revealed hidden chambers, tools, and systems that even the aliens had never activated. Ethan explored each section carefully, touching panels that responded to thought and heart rather than physical input. He discovered energy systems that could generate light, shields, and propulsion simultaneously, all controlled by subtle variations in intention and focus. During one exploration, Ethan came across a simulation chamber projecting a distant planet. The simulation showed environmental hazards, raging storms, shifting terrain, and extreme gravity. He realized the test was not about speed or strength but adaptability. Using the Sentinel's intuitive systems, he altered the energy flows, stabilized the simulation, and found a solution that no alien protocol had suggested. The ship responded with a surge of light, pulsing with approval. Ethan began to understand the truth. The Sentinel was not just a warship. It was a mirror of intelligence, a reflection of the operator's mind. It could amplify creativity, recognize intuition, and reward empathy. Humans, small and underestimated, were uniquely capable of unlocking its potential. As the day progressed, Ethan felt a deepening bond with the ship. It responded to him with fluidity and understanding, a dance of mind and machine that no other being could achieve. He realized that this was more than engineering, it was partnership. The Sentinel had chosen him not because of skill alone, but because of his heart, his curiosity, and his courage to try the unexpected. Then, a sudden alert lit the central console. A nearby sector of space contained a drifting fleet of cargo vessels in distress. Alien patrols had avoided the area. Considering it too dangerous to approach, Ethan had a choice. He could follow protocol, report the situation, or he could act. He chose to act. With the Sentinel's systems fully cooperating, he navigated toward the fleet. The ship's energy shifted to prioritize precision and care, guiding him safely past debris fields and unstable asteroids. He reached the first vessel, assessing the damage. Using the Sentinel's tools, he stabilized the ship, restored power, and guided it to safety. One by one, he assisted the others, using creativity and improvisation to adapt to each unique situation. The Sentinel hummed in harmony with his actions, almost as if it shared his sense of purpose. By the time the last vessel was safe, word had spread across the station and nearby fleets. Humans were no longer seen as fragile or limited, they were beings capable of extraordinary innovation, empathy, and leadership. Ethan paused on the bridge of the Sentinel, looking out at the vastness of space. The ship's core pulsed beside him, alive, aware, and responsive. He realized that this was more than a victory for a single human. It was a revelation for the galaxy. Humanity's creativity, intuition, and empathy were not weaknesses but strengths, capable of achieving what even advanced alien civilizations could not. "You have awakened me," the ship said softly. "You have shown that human ingenuity is unique. Together, we can explore possibilities others cannot imagine." Ethan smiled. "Then let's see how far we can go." The Sentinel surged forward, its immense engines propelling it through space with grace and power. Ethan guided it toward uncharted sectors, discovering planets, phenomena, and technology that had been hidden or ignored for centuries. Each success reinforced the bond between human and ship, highlighting the value of qualities that the galaxy had long underestimated. As night fell on distant worlds and stars shone brightly against the darkness, Ethan reflected on the journey. Humans were small, fragile, and often underestimated. But in moments like this, those very traits, adaptability, curiosity, and empathy became their greatest strengths. He had unlocked the Sentinel's potential, not through force, not through calculation alone, but through imagination, understanding, and heart. By the time he returned to the station, Ethan had fully awakened the Sentinel. The alien engineers and observers were astonished. The ship had never been so responsive, so fluid, or so alive. And it had taken a human to achieve this, confirming what Ethan had long suspected. Humans could exceed expectations, not by being stronger or faster, but by being creative, adaptable, and compassionate. Ethan stepped out onto the docking bay, exhausted but exhilarated. The Sentinel's hum continued in the background, a gentle affirmation of partnership and trust. Aliens approached him cautiously, awe written on their faces. They had seen the impossible done, and it had been done by a human. "You have changed how the galaxy sees your species," one alien said. "Humans are more capable than we imagined." Ethan nodded quietly, feeling a deep pride not for himself, but for humanity. They had long been underestimated. But in the Sentinel, he had proven that human ingenuity and heart could unlock greatness beyond measure. As he walked toward his quarters, he glanced back at the massive warship, glowing with life and energy. It was no longer just a vessel of war. It was a partner, a reflection of human potential, and a symbol of what could be achieved when underestimated minds dared to think differently. Ethan smiled. The journey had only begun. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges, mysteries, and opportunities, and humans, small and underestimated, were ready to rise, not with weapons, but with curiosity, ingenuity, and heart. The Sentinel pulsed once more, a quiet acknowledgement of a bond forged between human and ship. Ethan knew that together, they could explore the farthest reaches of space, uncover secrets no one else could, and show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. And for the first time, he felt that humanity's place in the stars was not just possible, it was inevitable.